So welcome to my explanation and teaching on the wood element of the 5 elements in traditional Oriental medicine and traditional Chinese medicine and martial arts. The 5 elements are wood, feeding fire, feeding earth, feeding metal, feeding water. That's the generative cycle. We'll get into that. But here we go. How I got into studying 5-element theory, traditional Oriental medicine, acupuncture, massage, cupping, herbs. I started out coming out of high school, going into machine shop, not fulfilled in my machine shop career, shifting into nursing, where I was helping people, and I recognized throughout my 20 years of nursing, very early on, that a lot of problems come from a disconnect with nature. People are driven too much by society's obligations. We're all aware of the power of nature, but it's hard to really be in sync with nature. And my hope is to try to help people be healthy by helping them to connect more with nature and nature's cycles and seasons. So transitioning from nursing towards studying Chinese medicine, and we'll get into some of the key things that stand out for the benefit of humanity, should humanity choose to re-engage with nature and natural law. So, first slide. What is the relevance of traditional Oriental medicine in today's world? And I say relevance because in the age of information and the digital age, we're moving so fast, so much information to come across. It's almost like we're bombarded with too much information, so it's very hard to take out the diamonds and the things of real value. And my concern is that we're moving so fast that a lot of traditional practices are being lost and kind of brushed aside as like outdated and not applicable to today's world. And I would argue that actually it's more applicable than ever, given the disconnection from the root of our whole biological experience. We fit somewhere between the sky above and the earth below, and human beings are somewhere in the middle. And we need to connect and root back down into the living organism that actually gives us our abilities to function and reach to new heights. So the relevance, here in this image, you'll see the Yellow Emperor, Huangdi, having a conversation with Chibo, classic physician way back when. The Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor's inner canon, comes from about 300 BC. The story may be way older than 300 BC. Anyways, it's a conversation between the emperor at the time and one of the top doctors. The Yellow Emperor asks the doctor, "You and your 2 other brothers are all doctors. Which one of you is the best?" So Chibo, he says, "Most people think that my oldest brother is the best doctor because he's a surgeon and he cuts out and removes things that are threatening their lives. If they don't have them removed, they're gonna die. So the change after he's done his surgery work is so drastic and very dramatic that many people are so relieved and they're like, wow, you're amazing, you saved this man's life. So understandably, my oldest brother gets most of the attention and most people think he's the best one. Secondly, the people think I'm the best, the middle brother. Because Chibo is saying how he uses herbs and prescriptions to help the people deal with the problems that they're facing. And quite often, after taking these prescriptions and herbs, the change is very dramatic and noticeable. And therefore, the people are very thankful that this middle brother is able to make such a great change in their life. But Chibo says, but in truth, the youngest brother, he's the best out of all of us because he teaches people how to eat properly, how to exercise properly. And these people, when they follow his teachings, they rarely get sick at all. But because they don't get saved from imminent death or terrible problems, there's no great, dramatic, life-saving, life-altering scenario. So my youngest brother doesn't really get that much attention. But really, he's the best out of all of us because he stops people from getting sick in the first place. And this story is from 300 BC, potentially years and years before that. But the same theme applies today. And many people now know how important prevention is coming to be, rather than getting entangled in a situation that may have been avoided in the first place, potentially. So my approach, what is my goal as a healthcare practitioner and a fellow human being? Personally, my approach, very much inspired from my 20 years of nursing. So many insights that I gathered from that. I really want to help people not get caught up in scenarios that they don't have to be caught up in. So this image here, a triangle, body, mind, and spirit. Proper nutrition, appropriate exercise, and effective stress management. These three lines here, the green, the yellow, and the red. The green is full foundation. This represents complete independence and self-sufficiency. By engaging in life, putting health up here and not somewhere down here, through nutrition, exercise, and stress management, that's where I want people to be, independent, so they don't actually need the help of higher trained practitioners and professionals. However, sometimes people have to move from self-care to a bit of help. That happens in life, you know, and hopefully independent people can maybe just get by with a little bit of help and be restored back to being independent and going about their lives however they freely choose to. And then sometimes maybe they need more help. That's the red line, surgery and whatnot, or even beyond surgery, not being able to be repaired at all. Ideally, that's avoided or minimized to get people back to here, and ideally get people back to here. And hopefully, generation after generation after generation, people can be self-sufficient as much as possible without getting trapped and losing their daily time and hours and whatnot just to be able to function normally. So getting a bit more focused on the matter at hand towards the wood element in this springtime. So, wood, fire, earth, metal, water. Water nourishes wood. Wood is burned by fire to create ash and earth. From the earth, you can harvest metal and minerals. Metal collects water. Water nourishes wood. That's the generative principle in nature. However, if you only have generation without any counterbalance, you'll deplete resources and you won't be able to sustain the growth. Therefore, nature has a counter, which is controlling and restriction. So metal chops wood. Wood breaks earth, like if you think of the roots of a tree, breaking apart the ground. Earth guides water, water flowing through caverns and whatnot. And water obviously extinguishes fire. Fire melts metal. Metal chops wood. But if you have too much control and things aren't able to grow, they also die because they lose their inspiration and that desire to explore and adventure and create and expand. So there has to be a balance between expansion and control, you know? So the 5-element theory is one of the foundations of traditional Oriental medicine. The other foundational theory, we've all seen the yin and yang symbol, okay? What is yin and yang theory, okay? Most people see it in like a 2-dimensional image, but you have to look at it in a 3-dimensional image, and it's not static. Everything is always moving and changing and transforming. So, the reality of duality. There is a dualistic nature, obviously, in our existence, okay? So you have the black is yin, the white is yang. Yin, down, up, inside, outside, left, right, north, south, cold, hot, dark, light, winter, summer, night, day, and so on. And these two dualistic aspects of reality, they're always in opposition to each other. They are interdependent. They rely on each other. They mutually consume each other. And they intertransform into each other as time goes on. You have circulation and stagnation. When things stagnate, they die. When things circulate, they live. That circulation happens through oppositional forces that promote growth. So, 5-element theory, yin and yang theory, focusing on the wood element, because wood is the time of spring. Water is winter, fire is summer, earth is late summer, and autumn is the metal element, okay? But we're gonna focus on the wood element in this springtime, okay? And each element rules organs and tissues and tendons, and tissues, sorry. And that's all based on the ancients' observations of how nature operated. So they took the basic 5 elements that they could recognize in the natural world, and based on the properties and characteristics of those elements, they categorized things under those elements to come to understand the relationship between everything that exists in nature. Okay, this comes from the Taoists and whatnot way back when. The 5-element theory, it's just a way of organizing and categorizing how nature functions. So the wood element, the organs that are governed by the wood element, the liver and the gallbladder, the yin organ and the yang organ. The liver and gallbladder, they manifest in the tendons and the sinews. They open up out of the five elements and 5 senses. The liver opens up to the eyes. So whatever's going on in the liver heavily impacts the eyes and the sight. The emotions also are categorized under the 5 elements based on how each emotion affects particular organs. And the emotion that affects the liver and gallbladder is anger. Anger, frustration, and resentment, okay? Those heavily impact how the liver does its job, whether it does it well or if it does it in a restricted way. We'll get into that a bit later. So, a little bit of a background. The human body is made up of what are called the 5 fundamental substances, okay? So you have the 3 treasures and the 2 vital fluids. The 3 treasures are Jing, or essence, Qi, energy, and Shun, or mind. Not the brain, but mind. 2 vital fluids, blood, and body fluids are basically anything else almost that's not blood in the body. Not the excretory elements, but the extracellular fluid, lymph, things like that. Why does the liver and spring relate to the wood element? So this goes back to the categorization of things in nature. The wood element, like the liver and like springtime, spring is a time when deepest yin shifts to yang. So deepest yin is the dark, cold winter months, heading towards the bright yang of summer. Spring is the intermediary. What happens in springtime, you'll see how the quality of wood is to ascend and expand. So you look at little seedlings and what they end up turning into as time goes on. Young and fresh, eventually, as time goes on, growing into strong. So this stage would be like the stage of a baby or the beginning of anything new. Okay? So the liver's nature is to facilitate the ascending energies and the expanding energies within the body. And when it's restricted and that ascent and expansion isn't allowed to happen through anger or toxins or whatnot, the liver can't function and the energy of expansion and ascending is kind of dampened. So getting down to the energetics and the physiological function of the liver and the acupuncture channel, the energetic channel that runs through the liver. You'll see here, this is the liver channel. And that channel, its energetic function. If you cut the body, you're not going to find the acupuncture channel. It's the pathway of energy that runs through the liver and connects to all of the other channels in the body. So briefly, if you look at the earth, the waterways and the streams flowing from a well, bubbling up from a spring, the water shifting into the pathway of a stream, flowing from a stream into a river, the river out into the sea or the ocean. That type of change is happening in our bodies all the time. If, say, an old tree falls down into a creek, that tree, as water's rushing through, it carries like leaves and debris and all kinds of stuff, and it collects in that tree. And then as the water goes through, it slows the circulation of the water, and the water comes out the other side a bit more dirty, and then that dirty water, impacts all the rest of the circuitry. But that's the basic concept of the energetic channels. You want the channels open, and you want energy to be able to move instead of rigid and restricted and tense. You want free flow, and the liver likes free flow of blood, not tension. So the liver dominates free flow by regulating emotional and mental activities, promoting digestion and absorption, maintaining blood circulation, regulating metabolism of water and fluids, and helps to regulate menstruation. The liver also governs the storing of blood and the regulating of blood volume. So in the daytime, 1/3 of your liver, or 1/3 of your blood is in the liver, but at nighttime when you're laying down, 2/3 of your blood are in the liver, which is why sleep is important, because in that time frame, when 2/3 of your blood supply are in the liver is doing its work to cleanse and detoxify all the crap that we take in throughout the day, voluntarily or not. And the better job that the liver can do, the better blood supply you have. The better blood supply you have, the better and healthier your tissues are going to be. And one of the reasons why the tendons and the sinews are impacted by the liver and the blood supply is because the blood supply to the liver, to the tendons and the sinews and ligaments, it's very minimal. So if you have your capillaries and veins and whatnot, there's not a much pathway for the blood to get there. That means that the tendons and the ligaments have a less chance of getting better nourishment. So you want your liver to be as optimally functioning as possible, so that the blood that's feeding everything in your body is a better quality. As time goes, when you're 10 years old, 20 years old, you can get away with a lot of things. But as you get older, if you have bad habits that are taxing your liver, the quality of your blood is going to be poor. Like, how many people are anemic, borderline anemic nowadays? How many people, their blood quality is not as good as it could be? This is why we need to come back to understanding and respecting how nature works. How were our bodies actually designed? So, what happens when you have pathological changes in the liver? So, when free flow of liver qi and blood is hindered, common issues are, in Chinese medicine, they'll call it liver qi depression. And some common symptoms or signs of that, it's a lack of sociability, unhappiness, sentimentality, like excessive sentimentality. Another common issue, hyperactivity of liver qi, which could show up as irritability, headaches, insomnia. The third one is disharmony of liver and stomach. So the relationship between the liver and the stomach, the relationship between the wood element and the earth element, something is off. People will have maybe distending pain, poor appetite, reflux. Reflux, how common is reflux? And Pepto-Bismol, maybe it's going to help you a bit. It's not going to solve the problem. Why do you have reflux? there's a reason why, and it has to do a lot with the liver. Disharmony of liver and spleen. So that somebody might have like diarrhea, indigestion. So also, when storage of blood is compromised, somebody might experience what's in Chinese medicine called liver blood deficiency. And some of the signs, symptoms of that: dizziness, vertigo, muscle spasms, cramping, and numbness in the limbs. So that's very broad overview of the liver from TCM standpoint. TCM being traditional Chinese medicine. And then the physiological functions of the liver's parent organ, the gallbladder. So this is the channel that connects and runs through the gallbladder, the energetic channel. It runs on the side of the body. Do you ever get headaches or on the side of your body, especially when you're like tense or stressed out? That's because the channel of the liver and the gallbladder runs up the side. And we're going to get into that stress, that anger and frustration shortly. But the job of the gallbladder, the yang organ of the liver, is to store and excrete bile. What's bile for? Bile originates from the liver and is stored in the gallbladder. The free coursing of gallbladder qi being energy and function. When the gallbladder is functioning properly, it allows for the excretion of bile into the intestines to assist with the digestion of water and food and fats in particular. The gallbladder also, on a mental, emotional, spiritual level, impacts the capacity to make decisions. Have you ever heard, you ain't got no gall? Why do they say you ain't got no gall? Because your gallbladder, it's weak. What happens? So the gallbladder is known as the judge. Like in a courtroom, the judge making a decision. The gallbladder is the judge of the 12 organs, and it's related to courage, bravery, and the counter to that, timidity in people. If there's pathological changes where the gallbladder isn't functioning as well as it could and should, there'll be an imbalance in the storage and excretion of bile. The feelings that somebody might feel when that type of energetic malfunction, dysfunction is occurring, they might have like anorexia or just no appetite, abdominal fullness, maybe diarrhea. When there's a deficiency or like low energy level of gallbladder qi, somebody might experience abnormal mental activities like timidity and very easy to frighten. So you ever see somebody who, like, I don't want to say ridiculously, but it's over exaggerating, or like they jump or they shout or they scream too much when they get startled, like whatever, a container falls, oh my god, like, hey, it's just a container, relax, like that type of thing. Too easy to jump and get startled. That's a sign that your gallbladder qi is weak. And yes, there is weakness in the world and there is strength. Strength takes the wish to improve on oneself and make the necessary adjustments in order to get strong instead of shying away from it. So now, liver, so we have the wood element. In the springtime, the liver and the gallbladder organs, how do they open up to the five senses? They open up into the eyes, the kidneys to the ears. So we'll focus on the eyes. And you saw how the liver channel, a diversion goes right up through the eye, okay? So there's the energetic pathway, but there's also the liver's impact on the blood that nourishes the eyes that we're using all the time, you know? So when the yin blood of the liver is sufficient, then the eyes can see things clearly and they can discriminate colors normally. Yeah. Simple, right? But when there's a pathological changes to the liver and the eyes, say in a TCM syndrome pattern, liver blood insufficiency. The symptoms would be like blurred eyes, blurred vision, night blindness. Liver yin insufficiency, so that's getting into not necessarily blood, but the other types of body fluids that affect and run through the liver. If the not necessarily liver blood is deficient, but liver yin is deficient, they might have dry eyes or diminished vision. And then liver fire flaring upward, that could arise as like conjunctival congestion, redness, maybe like if you get styes in the eye, that's from the liver in Chinese medicine. Liver wind stirring within, so that's kind of like blood supply is a bit weak, and that absence of abundant blood leaves pathway for wind to flow through the weak quality of blood. And symptoms that arise from that, having to like squint the eyes, or if it's very bad, there's a medical term called opisthotonos, which is like arched spine backwards, like rolling in the back, something very heavy seizure, right? Obviously that's not as common as dry eyes or red eyes, but it's just that's showing the stages, how somebody starts off in their 20s getting like dry eyes, red eyes. If they don't address it properly, the pathway could lead to something like that if it's not addressed properly. So that's why, again, prevention, trying to deal with small problems before they become big problems. Your body is constantly communicating with you. If there's a pain, the pain exists for a reason. It's not there to stop you from doing what you want to do with your life. It's telling you that you're doing something wrong and you need to make a change. That's why pain exists. That's why we get symptoms show up telling us something is wrong. So, on the note of sight and vision and how the liver affects the eyes, this is talking about the physical component. The beauty of Chinese medicine, Oriental medicine, is that it recognizes that this physical container allows for emotional, mental, spiritual processes to occur. So the spiritual component of the liver is known as the hun, or the ethereal soul. And if you picture a mountain, high mountain, top of the mountain is the sun. The sunlight going through a layer of clouds. That sunlight, the original sunlight, coming down towards the earth from the sky, the heaven above, goes past the horizon towards, and eventually the light trickles down to the stones and the rocks, all the way down to the caverns, dark, 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 beneath the surface of the mountain. That type of imagery is used to depict the stages of spirit. So the sun representing our truest sense of self, and then the clouds representing the ethereal soul, all the way down to the caverns underneath, which represent what the kidney holds is our will. But I'm just going to focus on what's the role of the hun, the ethereal soul, that is contained in the liver's function. Okay. Vision, not physical vision, but spiritually, our vision for our life, our imagination, our clear direction. Again, with the gallbladder. Are you a firm judge making a decision, or are you wishy-washy? What direction do you want to go with your life, and how determined are you to overcome the challenges that stop you or test you to see how bad you want to move in the direction that you think you want to go? So the hun, the ethereal soul stored in the liver, it helps us to discern our path. It helps us maintain clear direction. It helps us to imagine our possibilities. It helps us to move forward towards our goals and also to take a stand for what we believe is right. So when a challenge comes through and we get tested, are you shying away, or are you going to stand up for what you claim to know is right? And what if you're the only one who knows something and you're challenged by a majority? If you're right, you're right. Finding the way, maybe you adapt because maybe you're wrong a little bit, but you just don't give up is the point. And in order not to give up, to make the adaptations, to keep going forward, you need a healthy, strong liver that's nourishing your blood properly. What are some symptoms and signs of a hun disturbance? So spiritually, ethereal soul disturbance. Basically, an excess pattern would be people feel very angry and they experience life as one injustice after another. Whichever way they turn, there seems to be a brick wall, and they often inappropriately express extreme emotion. So signs and symptoms would be like insomnia, excessive dreaming, vague anxieties, especially at nighttime, digestive disturbances related to emotional upset, and outbursts of anger. So the excessive type it's more bah. And deficiency of the hun, the ethereal soul, that impacts our vision for our lifetime. People feel timid, depressed, confused. They lack emotional expression and are usually too weak to even try to start a project. And even if they do start a project, they quit very early on in the process. Signs and symptoms of a deficient hun, or liver ethereal soul: depression, absence of dreams, disorientation, disorganization, repressed emotion, excessive sleeping, and lack of clear vision. And this could be lack of vision like physically or spiritually. Now, so we went like starting off with the physical, dipped into the spiritual. We're going to bring it back towards the physical with a pit stop on the emotional front. The emotion that affects the liver, anger. So have you ever been so angry that you felt like your head could explode? Like that? Coming from the liver. So basically, two types of people who, like two ways of mismanaging anger. One type, excessive type, extroverted type. They feel angry, they say exactly what they want to say right in that moment, as loud as they're going to say it, so that everybody here's what they have to say. Blah! Like swearing. And then there's the other type. They bury it even more. Instead of coming out, they bury it even more. What happens? The liver wants free flow of blood, but when that emotional anger is held there, it tenses the liver up. And then it's harder for that blood to circulate through. What happens is that anger, if it's not released, ideally in a productive way, for the people who don't let it out, which is not always advisable, they bury it. What happens, it ends up, it doesn't have a pathway up and out, so it shoots over, and that's where people get like irritable bowel syndrome, and basically that, like it shoots over, they gotta run to the bathroom, diarrhea, right? So 2 ways, neither are ideal. So you gotta find ways to help deal with anger, frustration, and resentment in a beneficial manner, because things are gonna happen in life that make you angry. We gotta learn how to deal with it properly. So, solutions to dealing with anger. 1, it's okay to be angry. It's okay. 2, develop skills that promote a constructive rather than destructive response. You shout at somebody, you break that relationship for the rest of your life. It could have been a good relationship. You bury that anger in, you're just damaging yourself. So you need to find a way to recognize that you are angry, if you are, and deal with it properly. Great ways to do that: appropriate exercise, meditation, prayer, counseling if necessary. If you need somebody to give you feedback and just to get your stuff out, go for it if you can't do it on your own. Some of my favorite activities: hiking, rock climbing, kendo. Kendo is really great. It's not popular, but that's an activity where you actually get to like shout with everything, not in a reckless manner, while you're doing things. If you've never tried kendo before, I recommend it, especially if you've got anger problems. Qigong, instruments, music. I'm in my 40s and I'm still learning how to play guitar. And so it's never too late to start and take up new hobbies. And then journaling. My girlfriend, she's had great experiences writing, automatic writing, and then just having things come up that she probably wouldn't have thought about. And that's a common practice for many people, is writing, But my point, find a way to get these things that are getting buried in the body, to get them out. Okay? If you go the route of like antidepressants or whatever, like that's fine, but you can adapt too. You can make changes as well. If you need that extra help, by all means, get the extra help. But don't rely on something to make reality go away, okay? That, as a fellow human being, I'm saying that sincerely. So back to the wood element and bringing it back to a more practical state in this discourse. So again, the wood element, the liver, the gallbladder, the tendons and the sinews, the eyes, anger. We're going to focus now on the tendons and the sinews. Cats and tigers, what do they look like? I love this photo of 2 tigers playing, but how do cats jump or fall and land so delicately and softly? Is it because of muscle? Partially, but it's largely because of tendon. That sinewy, they're great. I love tendons. Something about the tendons too. You can tell the quality of your tendons by your nails, because the nails are an overgrowth of tendon. So you can look at the quality of your nails and determine the quality of your tendons if you can't by movement. So, sinews. Sinews are basically the fascia that wraps everything in the body, like the muscles and whatnot. Tendons connect bone to muscle, and ligaments connect bone to bone. But fascia, tendons, ligaments, all nourished by the quality of our liver blood. What happens when there's an insufficiency of liver blood to nourish the tendons? You might experience numbness in your 4 limbs, not all 4 of them, maybe it's just 1 limb. Difficulties in extension and flexion. You might have muscle spasms or cramping, tremors, and also the nails, which are like soft, thin, brittle, they just look bad. Yeah. So, but what is it like when your tendons are sufficient? Some of you may know Bruce Lee, some of you might not, but that image on here is of one of the greatest fun minds of any human being in recent history. He actually changed the movie industry, coming from Hong Kong in the 70s or so, and just totally changing how action sequences were made in movies. Bruce Lee was the guy that did that. And people see Bruce Lee as some martial artist actor guy, but his philosophical mind, that was actually the nourishment for all of the external stuff, that's one of the other aspects that make him one of my favorite people that I've never met. So when sufficient liver blood nourishes the sinews and nails normally, the joint movements will be prompt and forceful, and the nails will be firm, ruddy, and lustrous. But the tendons helping with fluid movement. Think of a break dancer. A break dancer, their tendons are phenomenal, the things that they can do. Ballet, high-level yogic people. So, in order for mind, body, spirit health, proper nutrition, not good nutrition, that a fad diet. What's the proper nutrition for your body, in your climate, at your stage of life? It's not, this is the popular thing right now. It's helping you to know what's right for you. Appropriate exercise. So again, not just exercise, what's the appropriate exercise for you? Effective stress management. Some people do very well, like sitting quietly and meditating. Other people, they're not at that stage. I think it's a great stage to be able to get to for every human being, but it takes time to get there. So maybe sitting meditation is not for you. Maybe going off for a walk in quiet, but whatever to get rid of the stress. And again, to mention Bruce Lee, who created Jeet Kune Do, which was a spin-off of Wing Chun and maybe some other Kung Fu. But he wasn't trying to make another martial arts system. He was trying to make himself better, and by doing that, he was helping other people become better too. But he said, for each person, it's going to be different. Take what's right for you, Put aside the things that are not right for you. Make up your own system. Try this out. Try that out. Try that out. Try this out. Take from it what works, push off to the side what doesn't, and then even revisit some of the stuff that you discarded way back when. When I was a kid, I hated Brussels sprouts. Got older, my mind changed a bit. The taste of Brussels sprouts is not as yummy as cookies and ice cream, but because of the function, the benefit of the Brussels sprouts, I learned to appreciate them more. If you ask me as a kid, will I ever like them? No way. Now, I've changed. So, it's a constant process. You have to keep adapting and evolving. The things you may have thought you knew before, maybe they've changed. So keep an open mind and keep engaging in your life. Find what's right for you in the moment. So, effective stress management. Forest walks. Meditate on your dreams, and this is particularly with regard to the wood element and your spiritual vision. Take time as you did as a kid, imagining a scenario. Imagine different scenarios. What scenario would you like to see? Work towards it. Gallbladder. Being the judge of your own life. Make your thoughts, words, and actions line up. Say yes only when you want to say yes. Say no when you want to say no. Don't get pressured. Do it because you want to. And say, I don't know, when you don't know. There's no need to rush things unless there's an actual emergency, not a perceived one. Choose patience over anger. If you can bite your tongue a little bit longer, it's not easy, I know. You might save damaging a relationship forever. And of course, always breathe properly. Not breathe. Now, stress management to nutrition for the springtime. Basically, in the springtime, the sour flavor helps to stimulate bile production. So when you're eating meat in the springtime, try to minimize the amount of meat that you eat and up the green leafy vegetables and the sprouts. But when you have meat, take a sip of like apple cider vinegar or vinegar sauce with the meat. The vinegar sauce and the sour flavor helps to stimulate bile production so that you can digest the fats and whatnot from your meal, particularly meat. And I'm going to bypass the nutrition stuff. You can email me or just Google TCM nutrition for springtime and liver health and explore. I also highly recommend, I think every kitchen, household should have the book Healing with Whole Foods by Paul Pritchford. I think every family should have that and read it and study it and apply it. Healing with Whole Foods, Paul Pritchford. Getting into exercise. Appropriate exercise for the springtime. My favorites, I'm going to do a demo shortly on the Spring Wood Tiger of 5-element Qigong. And just keeping in mind to round out tendon health. Mantak Chia, love him or hate him, from his book, he writes, and I believe it, just looking at how cats behave, how they move, how people like Bruce Lee can move. Tendons have the ability to absorb energy, stretch like an elastic, and then release up to 93% of that energy that they've taken in. Whether it's 93% or not, the proper tendons have the ability to absorb and give back in an elastic type motion. Healthy person's tendons, when they're functioning properly, the efficiency and the energy conservation, way more. They will last way longer than somebody who has weak functioning tendons. Think of somebody who runs long distances regularly, how strong their Achilles tendon is in every impact. What do you think the tendons are doing, and why do some people's Achilles rupture and others don't? You have to look at how they take care of their tendons, either consciously or not. I hope this video will help you focus your attention on your liver health, how your liver is able to manage the flow of blood, how it's able to clean your blood so that tissues like the tendons can get better quality blood, because typically the blood flow to those tissues is less, so you want the best blood. And then you can actually train through exercise tendons so that you have greater vasculature, so there is more blood coming and going out of the tendons, which is why I'm going to demo how to make a liniment to strengthen your hands. Use that while you're actually doing exercises to train your tendons combined. So to wrap it up, the wood element, tendons, sinews, eyes, anger, green, spring, birth, eastern direction when the sun is rising, new, and then the wind affects it. That's a whole other thing we don't have to get into now. And I want to just remind you, my goal as a health practitioner is to help people be as independent as possible. Ideally with a little help, sometimes a lot of help if necessary. Proper nutrition, appropriate exercise, effective stress management. And then maybe adding, if needed, nature-backed natural hacks. Massage, cupping, gua sha, acupuncture, and herbs. And I'm going to do a little demo on how to make your own liniment that uses about 19 herbs, just to give you an idea what traditional Chinese medicine involves. But thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great spring.